Hello travelers, Boardman21 here, and today's build is the Shaman Totem Master. And by that we're going to be procking and summoning as many totems as possible, especially the Thorn Totem, to try and proc as many ice vortexes as we can get to get a lot of spell cold damage over time for the minions going. We're also going to do that by getting as many hits as possible, so we're going to have Ice Thorns and Avalanche going full time. We also went with a lot of survivability, so we're going to be wearing a shield and using a one hand. We're going to have uniques in a couple of slots, the amulet and in the one-handed weapon slot, and they're going to be very interchangeable depending on how you'd like to play the build, so there's a lot of options for which unique that you can put in those slots. We'll go over that when we go over the gear. And the damage overall, the total DPS of this build is rather good. You can get through bosses, you can get through mobs, you can clear monos really quick. We pushed really high in the arena. It's actually quite a tanky build. We went 135 waves on our very first attempt. We can stand in Lagon's beam, we can face tank the Emperor, you can basically face tank everything, and the main reason for that, even though we don't have a whole lot of leech or a whole lot of healing, is because we have the death rattle in our amulet slot. And so every time a totem dies, you get 20 health, and it's actually whenever a minion dies. So we also have rock elementals from Avalanche. We also have some spirits from our Tempest Maul weapon that we're using, and basically all together you just gain a lot of life, because every time you proc the Thorn totems, you get 100 life for the 5 that die when you spawn the next round of 5 of them, and it just refills your life incredibly quickly and gives you a lot of survivability. So let's go ahead and get into the skills. For skills, we're running at Tempest Strike, Summon Storm Totem, Avalanche, Summon Thorn Totem, and Ice Thorns. For Tempest Strike, we are using this for a couple of things. 1, to get our mana back, and 2, to have the highest chance possible to proc Earth Spikes, because every time that we proc Earth Spikes, we're guaranteed a proc of Summon Thorn Totem. We have 4 points in Reinforced Stone to increase the Earth Spikes chance. We have 5 points in Unspent Power for the 20 mana gained whenever we don't proc something. We have 2 points in Thirsty Blades for the health gained on Earth Spikes hit. 1 point in Charged Stone, 1 point in Dead Wind. We have 1 point in Earthquake, which increases the Earth Spikes area a little bit. 4 points in Earth's Aid, so that every time that we proc Earth Spikes, there's a 100% chance to summon the Thorn Totem. 1 point in Hailstorm, and 1 point in Grounded, so that we have disabled both the Lightning Bolt and we've disabled the Northern Winds, so we only have a chance for the Earth Spikes. This way we have a 56% chance to proc Earth Spikes, and we have a 44% chance that we're just going to gain the mana. For Summon Storm Totem, we're just trying to get as much damage out of it as possible. It is lightning based, so it's gonna not get as much damage as the cold that we're stacking, although we do still have a lot of lightning damage in our passive skills. We also have the adaptive spell damage on our gear, because that helps both the minions that we have doing their spell damage. We have 4 points in Lightning Raider for the increased cast speed to get as many hits as possible, 2 points in Storm's Reach for some bigger area, 4 points in Intensity for some more hit damage, and so that we unlock the Thunder Totem, so that we have a 25% chance every time we summon the Storm Totem to get a Thunder Totem, which will have 100% more duration, health, critical strike chance, and increased damage. We have 3 points in Direct Current to increase the base crit chance of our totem, 1 point in Blizzard, so that has the chance to chill every second, and 5 points in Icicles for that base cold spell damage of plus 20. For Avalanche, Avalanche is still going to be a cast and forget, and it isn't going to do too much damage, although we still built into the damage a little bit, but it's more of how many hits can we get out of it, so that we can proc as many Thorn Totems as possible to get our damage from them. So we have 1 point in Mountain Peak, 1 point in Precision, 1 point in Wild Path, so it's no longer channeled, 3 points in Unyielding Storm for increased duration, as it's now a cast and forget, 1 point in Hailstorm so it follows us, 3 points in Harsh Winter for some more hit damage, 1 point in Rockfall so that it's converted to a complete physical still, with it's no longer a cold tagged skill. This also gives us some of it leached as health, as we have some physical leech inside of our passive skills. 3 points in Grounding, so that has 45% more hit damage while a totem is active, which you'll always have active totems. 2 points in elemental bonds, so there's a 4% chance for every boulder that falls to convert into a rock elemental, which is a minion. And 4 points in Stormfront, so that we have 20% more boulders fall while it's active. For Summon Thorn Totem, we have this to proc all 5 totems at once and to create an ice vortex, or an ice cloud, whenever it dies. So we have 3 points in Forested Expanse, 3 points in Eternal Forest, and 1 point in Grove Mind. Grove Mind allows all of your Thorn Totems, your maximum amount, to be summoned every time that it procs. The 3 points in Forested Expanse increases your maximum Thorn Totems from 2 all the way up to 5. We have 2 points in Memories of Edera, which increases the cooldown recovery speed, although this only counts for you casting it yourself, not for procs. So the only reason we actually went with this is to unlock our pathway to get to the ice clouds, or ice vortexes. We have 4 points in Venom Tipped Thorns for some poison chance, which is converted to chill chance. 1 point in Lasting Affliction, which is poison duration, which turns into chill duration. 4 points in Rotten Core, so that we get a poison cloud on totem death. And with the 1 point in Ice Thorn Totems, it's now a ice vortex instead of a poison cloud. We also have our poison turns to chill. We also now have a freeze rate, so there's a chance to freeze the mobs with our Thorn Totems, which there's going to be a lot of them. And then 50% of our base physical damage is converted to cold damage for those ice vortexes. And then we have our last point in Frost Attunement, so that we gain some more freeze rate multiplier per point of attunement. Now, the node that would have been really nice to get into is Winter Cold, as we would have got up to 20 more base spell cold damage. However, in order to get this, you do have to go the bottom route, and going that way and still being able to get the clouds means, one, you'd have to cancel the fact that you can summon all 5 at once, or you'd have to get rid of the clouds altogether, and either way you look at it, it just didn't synergize with what we were trying to do here, so we lost a little bit of damage not being able to get that. For Ice Thorns, since we are wearing a one-handed weapon, and it's not a scepter or a wand, so we don't have negative spell cost, and since we're not wearing the two-hander, we can't cancel out the mana cost altogether. We had to be a little bit careful with how much mana it actually costs, because if you cast it every second and you have it costing the full 5 or go as high as 7 mana cost, it would just take all of your mana away. Especially with Avalanche, you'd always be running out, so you'll have to play around with the cooldown speed. However, the way we have it set up here, we have 1 point in Anemophily, 1 point in Thorn Shield, 4 points in Bulb Shield, 1 point in Second Nature, and 2 points in Floric Tides instead of the full 6. And with this 100% increased cooldown recovery speed, it's only a 2-second cooldown instead of a 4. If you put the full 6 points in there, you can get to a 1-second cooldown, although that just used way too much of our mana, and we weren't able to keep it going. We have 1 point in Cold Prison to increase the base cold damage, 5 points in Piercing Cold so that they can now pierce, and the reason we went with this is so that when they pierce enemies, they all count as hits, and that way we could proc more Thorn Totems. 3 points in Ritual Briar for more hit damage, 2 points in Thorn Shapers so that when there's 2 totems or more active, we have more hit damage, and there's a chance to cast it whenever we are hit. For passives, we have 27 points in the Primalist base class, with 3 points in Gift of the Wilderness, 8 points in Natural Attunement, 6 points in Wisdom of the Wild, 5 points in Tempestborn, and 5 points in Elder Branch. Now, for Elder Branch, you get 5 totem adaptive spell damage. This is tripled if you're using an axe, so we are going to be using an axe in this build. There's a few of them that you can choose from, because you can use a unique one or a crafted one in the one-hand slot, and in our case, we're using a unique one, and there's a couple of uniques that you can choose from. We have 0 points in the Beastmaster, 6 points in the Druid, all 6 points in Blood Claws for that % physical damage leached as health, and for some physical penetration, and then 78 points in the Mastered Shaman. We have 8 points in Shamanic Infusion, 4 points in Silent Protector, 8 points in Fate Carver, 8 points in Tempest Form, 4 points in Stormbringer, 5 points in Avatar of Thunder, 5 points in Ancestral Speed, 10 points in Storm Elder, Boulder, 8 points in Ruin of Awe, 5 points in Protective Circle, 1 point in Herald's Path, 4 points in Eternal Storm for that 100% increased totem damage, and 8 points in Ascendant Circle. For items, there are a bunch of different idols that you can wear, especially in the suffix slot. For the prefix slot on them, you definitely want the percent chance on hit to summon a Thorn Totem. The suffix can basically be anything you want. Here we have increased cold damage, chance to cast an Avalanche Boulder, chance to bleed, minion chance to bleed. Basically there's a bunch of choices. You can put on whatever you think will work best for your build. Just make sure you have as highest chance as possible to summon a Thorn Totem on every hit that you do. Now, as we said, we are doing the one-handed axes, which you can either craft one or you can use a unique. In our case, we're taking advantage of the Tempest Maul so that we have a chance to summon our 4 Storm Spirits every 15 seconds. So basically, since Storm Totem has an 8-second cooldown and we're manually casting that, every other one of them that we cast, as you can see here, is going to have 4 of these little Spirit Storms that go around, and they look really cool when they start attacking the enemy. The other unique that we're going to be wearing is in the amulet slot. We have the Death Rattle, because every time that we proc Storm Totem, or every time we proc the Thorn Totem, we get 5 Thorn Totems, and it kills off the previous 5 that were there, because you have a max of 5. Means you're going to gain 100 health every time that it procs, and you're going to be procking it, depending on how many mobs, you can go from anywhere from a few times a second to 10 or 20 times a second. So you can get a lot of life, and this increases your survivability by a lot. For the rest of the gear, it's all crafted. For our chest, we have Vitality, increased armor, increased health, and Totem adaptive spell damage. For the helm, we have the Totem adaptive spell damage, increased health, Vitality, set, necrotic, and poison. For the offhand, we went the Solar Shield with the increased block chance, increased armor, flat, and some void resistance. We're wearing turquoise rings on both of our ring slots for that minion damage and minion health. We have set physical and void, we have leech, we have elemental resist and increased minion damage. We have set necrotic and poison with some hybrid health leech, flat health and minion damage on the left ring. On the belt we have set necrotic and we have set physical, along with percent increased health and hybrid health. For the gloves we went with vitality, a chance to apply virality on hit, hybrid health and flat health. For the boots we went with set necrotic and poison, vitality, hybrid health and increased movement speed. And for the relic we have set physical, we have hybrid health leech, some flat health and some increased minion damage. Other uniques that you can wear in the weapon slot, you can have Reach of the Grave, which should give your Storm Totem extra spell damage, and it should give your Ice Vortex, which is a spell from the Thorn Totems, more damage, so that both of them will do more damage. And then you can also wear the Beast King if you want, so that you take 8% less damage whenever your minions have recently killed, and since your minions are doing most of the damage, they're always going to be getting kills, so this will help with your survivability a bit. Reach of the Grave will give you some more damage, Tempest Maul is giving you extra minions, so kind of a lot of choices of what you can do. For the amulet, the Death Rattle is a hard one to give up because of the fact that you're getting 100 health every time that you proc the Thorn Totem, but another one that I would recommend is the Frozen Eyes of Foremost, and the reason for that is you can have up to 300% more minion freeze rate per stack of chill, and because all those ice vortexes are applying chill on hit and they have a freeze rate, it means that you can get up to 900% more freeze rate because you'll always have the maximum 3 stacks of chill on the enemy, and it leads to your Ice Vortexes having a very high chance to freeze. And I've noticed that when I was playing around with this, we would freeze trash mobs and even some rares all the time. It was almost a perma-freeze build. It didn't work too well against bosses, it just had too low a chance, but with how many you're proccing of them, you were basically freezing everything else, so that in itself can also be very help your survivability. However, I like the Death Rattle more, as it did increase the minion critical strike damage you were doing with the Storm Totem, on top of being able to get that health and depend on that. For our character sheet, as you can see, once we have our totems active, we are pretty much capped on resistances. We're 2% shy on void, but basically capped on everything. We have 1300 armor. Here's our minion stats. For our stats, we're not really doing too much for damage wise. We're basically depending on the minions. And then for the playstyle and the rotation, I like to put Avalanche and Ice Thorns both on auto cast. I also put my Summon Storm Totem on autocast. Some people like to have control and cast it whenever they want, but you'll notice that as soon as we get close to the training dummy, granted Storm Totem's not targeting it, and we start using Tempest Strike, we can get a lot of Ice Vortexes going. You can see that our Avalanche is critting for around 10k. We're getting between 5 and 10k tick damage from our Ice Vortexes, which is a lot of damage. Against mobs, obviously, that's only like 1 to 2, maybe 3,000 damage. But it does clear things out pretty nice, and the nice thing is you can always run away. You can see how many of these we're actually proccing. Remember, we're getting 100 health every time that we proc that, and of course this is all against one target. So when you hit a bunch of trash mobs, your Ice Thorns are piercing, you know, you're getting multiple hits with each boulder. You're proccing, for every enemy you add to that, you're proccing that many more of the Thorn Totems. So it becomes a huge survivability, especially the more mobs and the more density of mobs that you have on the screen. Alright, I'm gonna go ahead and give you guys some more gameplay.